messaging from both sides, see, largely both the sides are speaking to the converted or their voters or supporters. NDA wants to send a message that it is business as usual. The pre-poll alliance has the majority in Lok Sabha. Though BJP may not have the majority, but the pre-poll alliance has the majority. It is continuity of sorts because you have the same prime minister, the top four ministers are the same, and now we have the same speaker designate in Om Birla. The opposition wants to send a message that it is not going to give free field to the BJP or NDA at any cost. So for each and everything, they are likely to force for an election. And it also wants to give a message that there is also this, see, it wants to set home the narrative that the BJP or the NDA is anti-Dalit. So now it is likely to put pressure on the regional parties which are part of the NDA that they did not back a Dalit candidate as the speaker. In 2024 Lok Sabha elections, we saw how the narrative of a change of constitution, and if BJP wins 400 seats, it could end reservations. This narrative did work on the ground, and the NDA lost almost 5% vote share of the SC community compared to 2019. So these two are the messages which both the groups are trying to send to their supporters and the voters, and we'll have to see how the results pan out. See, every time whenever there is a voting in Lok Sabha, the heartbeat of both the alliances increases, because one, you have to ensure that you get the support of the 290 odd people in NDA and the 230 odd MPs amongst the India bloc, and also try to poach some MPs from the opposition bloc towards your side. Because let's say today, if the BJP or the NDA falls short of numbers, then it does not send a correct message that the NDA house in order. Vice versa, if the India bloc falls short of numbers from their 234, 35, then it shows that there is disunity amongst the India bloc. So that's why the election makes it very interesting.
Okay, so it's about positioning more than anything else. Aditi Fadnis, I'm just trying to understand the genesis of all of this. Is it possible now, by the time the election takes place tomorrow, that there could be more of bargaining taking place? At the end of the day, the contention seems to be that why is the deputy speaker not from the opposition as per convention?
Well, as you know, that there was no deputy speaker in the last Lok Sabha simply because of this issue. And in the continuing 2024, the Lok Sabha, which we have just seen established, I think this is an issue of assertion rather than of election. The first move that the Congress and the Congress-led India Alliance has made is to ask for something that is a convention but not a right. When the government decided that they would not grant deputy speaker to the opposition alliance, the opposition alliance said, fine, don't give it to us, but we will then contest the position of the speaker. Going forward, this is going to have its impact both on the functioning of the Lok Sabha, which is what we are concerned about, and on the way or the pace at which legislation is referred to the behind-the-scenes consultations which take place in standing committees. We have seen that the record of the government referring bills and legislation to standing committees for further consultation has not been too good. And the matter of whether the Aadhaar bill was a financial legislation or not went up right up to the Supreme Court. So I think this is just a way of the opposition telling the government that the Lok Sabha constituted in 2024 is neither the Lok Sabha constituted in 2014 nor the Lok Sabha constituted in 2019.
You know, Aditi, in terms of how the opposition is positioned, is there clarity on LOP? Is it going to be Rahul Gandhi who's LOP? And from the fact that he came out and spoke today and is taking this fight on head on, is this telling us about the level of aggression politically we could be seeing from the opposition?
Oh, absolutely. And frankly, it doesn't matter. I'm pretty sure that it will be Rahul Gandhi, but it doesn't really matter who the LOP is now. We have heard earlier today, that the BJD, which does not have any MPs in Lok Sabha, but has MPs in the Rajya Sabha, is not going to cooperate with the government and is going to work as an opposition party in the upper house. Now, upper house, the situation is quite precarious because although the BJP has the backing of alliance partners as well as independents, uh, it could change any moment at the slightest lapse of floor management by the BJP. We've seen this happen before. So I really don't know what it's going to be. Pretty unpredictable in the upper house, and a more aggressive, more assertive Lok Sabha, which will have its own impact for passing legislation, particularly legislation related to further reform.
Listen in to what Congress MP Rahul Gandhi said today when it came to the post of Deputy Speaker.
राजनाथ सिंह जी का खारगे जी को फोन आया। राजनाथ सिंह जी ने खारगे जी से कहा, देखिए आप हमारे स्पीकर को सपोर्ट कीजिए। ऑपोजिशन, पूरी ऑपोजिशन ने कहा है, हमने सब के सब से बात की है, पूरे ऑपोजिशन ने कहा है कि हम स्पीकर को सपोर्ट करेंगे, मगर कन्वेंशन ये है कि डेप्यूटी स्पीकर ऑपोजिशन को मिलना चाहिए। राजनाथ सिंह जी ने कल शाम कहा था कि वो खारगे जी को कॉल रिटर्न करेंगे। अभी तक राजनाथ सिंह जी ने खारगे जी का कॉल रिटर्न नहीं किया है। तो मोदी जी कह रहे हैं कंस्ट्रक्टिव कोऑपरेशन हो, और फिर हमारे नेता को इंसल्ट करा जा रहा है।
All right, so Amitabh, what is that aggressive stance telling us? Because it's unlikely K Suresh is going to become the next speaker, right? It's very clear Om Birla has the numbers. And in terms of what we actually see in the business of the House, in legislation, looking at the way the numbers are stacked up right now, what does all of this translate into? More washed out sessions or an actual hindrance for key legislation?
See, essentially, the aggressive stance shows that the opposition and the treasury benches have a clear trust deficit now. The Prime Minister yesterday spoke of 3 C's, which is consensus, cooperation, and coordination. But we have the 4th C, which is confrontation, right now playing in front of us on the second day of the Parliament. Now, there could be more washed out sessions, as you said, because in 2019 to 24, when the opposition barely had 150 MPs in a house of 540, there were many sessions which were washed out. Now they have a much higher number of 250. Also, Rahul Gandhi or the India bloc wants to convey a message that earlier, whenever bills were passed by voice vote, or even the speaker was initiated, or the elections were done on a consensus basis, now after everything we will have 2 numbers, one representing the NDA bloc, which could be 300 or whatever, and one representing the India bloc numbers, which could be 230, 250, which will keep on sending the message that this parliament, as Aditi said, is very different from the earlier parliament, and the NDA enjoys a fairly thin majority of roughly 50 to 60 votes. That's the message which they constantly want to harp in the minds of the people, because that is the positioning which will help them in the future elections, not only in state elections, but also whenever the national election takes place next time.
But Amitabh, so message versus what will practically happen. The fact is that the NDA has a majority. So in terms of pushing through bills, in terms of pushing through key pieces of legislation, in terms of those committees, do you see this being as a hindrance or a precursor of, the inability to get legislative work done?
See, it has the majority or the workable majority in the Lok Sabha.
Yeah.
While in the Rajya Sabha now, because BJD has 9 to 10 MPs, YSRCP also has around 9 MPs in the Rajya Sabha. If these 2 main parties were the parties which were bailing the BJP out in the Rajya Sabha to pass legislation, Now, if these two parties change their stance, then I mean, it would now depend upon how the BJP or the NDA bloc works on the expansion of the NDA and gets consensus not only from the opposition, I mean, let's say even if the opposition is not cooperating, but from the fence sitters on the non-aligned parties. The non-aligned parties in Lok Sabha are only 17, 18 odd, but in Rajya Sabha, they still have a significantly big number. And this could be a precursor to washed out sessions, confrontation, and also hindrance on key legislative bills being passed out in the parliament in the coming years.
What does it also tell us about bipartisanship politically? I mean, this started with an outreach from Rajnath Singh, a very senior member of the cabinet, going out himself and speaking with opposition leaders and trying to get everyone on board for their candidate Om Birla. And obviously, it's not ended in that kind of a consensus. So it's in that aspect when sometimes you need to have that bipartisanship to get important decisions through. This first test has been, something of a failure, isn't it?
Who's the question for?
Aditi, it's for you.
Oh, okay. Yes, you're absolutely right. Rajnath Singh is a fairly conciliatory and not a stubborn person as perceived by the opposition. That his mediation has failed suggests that the opposition is now pretty clear that it's not going to cooperate with the government. And frankly, the government has done itself no favors by the kind of record that it has set in the last Rajya Sabha round and the Lok Sabha, where a record number of MPs were suspended by the chair. So I really don't know what is going to happen in the coming days. Maybe more marshals will be called to evict MPs. This much is clear that unless there is very intricate and very determined floor management, bills can fall by accident also.
What does that mean, Aditi? Bills can fall by accident also. I think there's more to that statement that we need to explain.
We have seen that happen in the past in the upper house when the BJP had a slim majority but was not able to get one or two bills cleared because at the time when the bill was passed, all its members were not in the house. So by a simple accident, you can have a situation like that replicated this time in the Lok Sabha.
Okay, so that becomes important, yeah.
So floor management is going to become extremely important, and also outreach by BJP managers, by NDA managers to the opposition on critical bills, which will reflect a sense of bipartisanship. So we have to pay, as reporters and as people who are following this, we have to pay much more attention to the quality and the content of bills and what the opposition is saying about them.
Just the other aspect of all of this, Amitabh, is the alliance, the NDA alliance itself. Remember, initially there was this talk that the TDP is asking for the speaker's position. Now, all of that has been put to rest. We haven't heard much from the alliance partners today on Om Birla and the election which will take place tomorrow. How are you reading into this? Is that message that the alliance is very much strong and on the same page going through?
The nomination of Om Birla does show that the BJP has managed to convince the alliance on keeping the speaker post with itself, because that's a very tricky and an important post, key post, when it goes to this Lok Sabha 18th. However, we also know that the JDU and TDP, though they have around 28 MPs supporting the NDA and they are key to the fortunes of the NDA going forward, these two parties are probably have more stakes at state level politics than at central level politics, and both of them require some sort of assistance or a financial package from the government. Andhra for their capital and Bihar also has been seeking for a special package. since the separation of Jharkhand from it. So these two leaders or parties seem to be now focused on their state level issues and priorities of getting more funds from the government, and we'll have to see how this pans out. If they are able to get funds from the government and they are able to win accolades back home that they have been able to get funds and secure funds in lieu of the support to the central government, then I think since it's a pre-poll alliance, it would largely continue in the same direction.
So the focus for both the key alliance partners remains in their respective states, actually for all of them, because even if I look at Eknath Shinde ahead of the Maharashtra elections, that's where all the focus is, leaving the central government priorities to the BJP. Just one last point, Aditi Fadnis, what happens to the deputy speaker position now? It was vacant in the 17th Lok Sabha. In the 18th Lok Sabha, this entire situation started with a demand from the opposition to fill that post. What is the likely outcome for the deputy speaker's position?
What we can say with some certainty is that if there is going to be a deputy speaker, it will have to be from South India. The convention is that if the speaker is North Indian, from North India, the South has to be represented by the deputy speaker. If there is no deputy speaker and the government continues with its tradition of not having a deputy speaker, well, that's a different matter, and we still have to hear from the BJP on that. But my feeling is there will be a deputy speaker, and it could be offered to the TDP. In keeping with the regional balance that needs to be kept. But the last word on that is yet to be said. I think the BJP is waiting to cross that bridge when it comes to it.
So the best case scenario for the BJP would be to prevail with speaker and deputy speaker, both positions with them. The opposition would want at least the deputy speaker to be with them. But meanwhile, the gauntlet has been thrown, so to speak, by the India Alliance. We'll wait and see how this all pans out. That election taking place at 11 a.m. tomorrow. For now, thank you so much for speaking with us, Amitabh Tiwari and Aditi Fadnis there. We'll take a very short break, but stay tuned. All the news and updates on the other side on NDTV Profit.
एक ही लक्ष्य, नेशन फर्स्ट, एक ही इरादा, 2047 विकसित भारत।
The first investment you should make is something that is not at all discussed and is not at all sexy. It's not mutual funds, it's not stocks. First investment that you should absolutely make is get a private health insurance.
Interesting.
Because most people, when they start off working, they have a corporate health plan, which they feel is sufficient, which in many cases it is. But at the same time, if let's say you develop a critical illness or you get into an accident, in that case, it becomes very tricky for you to get insurance later on in life.
Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
Listen to the voices of reason as they talk about corporate health and investing principles with me, Neeraj Shah, on my show, Talking Point.
Let's be real, guys. There are many financial experts out there. Which stocks to target? What's good for long term? When to buy? When to sell? How do you stay ahead of all the financial noise to achieve your dreams?
you can accomplish all your financial dreams. Let us worry about giving you the right investing insights on the Portfolio Manager.
Stock selection.
What a day for the markets. The Sensex has crossed 78,000 for the first time and the Nifty is at a fresh live high, crossing 23,700. Financial stocks add 175 points to the Nifty's 200-point rally. Private banks are taking the banking indices to new life highs. The Nifty Bank surges 2% with Axis, ICICI, HDFC leading the pack. It is a special day for ICICI Bank. It joins the elite league of companies that are valued at over $100 billion in market cap. TCS, HDFC Bank, Reliance Industries and Bharti Airtel are the others. The Lok Sabha Speaker will be elected this year. The NDA's Om Birla will be pitted against the India bloc's K Suresh. There is no relief for Arvind Kejriwal. Delhi High Court stays trial court order granting bail to Kejriwal agrees with ED's allegations against the trial court. Expect the Adani Airport's IPO by financial year 2028. The Adani Group also unveiled its plans to invest 1.3 lakh crore rupees in the current fiscal. Adani Green to invest 34,000 crores. And WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange agrees to plead guilty in a US court in exchange for his freedom. The publisher was wanted by Washington for publishing hundreds of thousands of secret US documents from 2010. Well, good evening and welcome. You are watching the reporter on NDTV Profit and I'm Nupur Talwar Suri. Over the next 1 hour, we bring you all the top news. But first, we look at how the markets have fared today. In fact, the Nifty and the Sensex both touching all-time highs with banks and IT leading the rally. Harsha joins us right now with a wrap of all that's happened on D Street. Harsha, looking like a fantastic day for the markets.
Well, fantastic day, I agree, Nupur, but only on the benchmark, mind you. So let's pull that up. In fact, a very strong rally when you're looking at the financial sector, which basically has led the benchmark higher, which is both the Nifty as well as the Sensex. And it's strengthened through the day, and that's the beauty of it. Let's pull up where the Nifty 50 is actually closed, because we've closed just off the day's highs. There you go, we've just closed off the day's highs and around 0.4% higher. Let's pull up the heat map to see exactly what was buzzing. And I did mention financials and IT, and you'll see a lot of those names in the green. Of course, throw in an L&T, throw in a Britannia, but outside of that, you're seeing a large bunch of IT as well as FMCG names which have led the rally today. Reliance also quietly up around 0.4%, and Reliance is a heavyweight, and therefore that contributor, it's a large contributor to the Nifty 50. Well, at the bottom of that pyramid, you'll see all stocks, power, utilities, PSUs. You'll see some auto names there as well. You'll see some FMCG names there. You'll see Bharti Airtel within the telecom pack, and you'll see two-wheeler names like Hero as well over there. And therefore, it's kind of a mixed bag. Every other sector, particularly some of these, took a bit of a beating in trade. Let's pull up the sectoral heat map as well before I zoom in to certain specific contributories. And what you'll see within sectors, bank and finance did particularly well. IT was also up, some bit of green on PSU, bank and pharma, but nothing significant there. Look at PSE, look at metal, lots of pain. Realty while not much of an impact on the benchmark that it has, but nonetheless realty took a bit of a knock as well. Energy, media also not too much, but energy also taking a bit of a knock there, 0.5% lower. And therefore you saw a mix of sectors. Now let's pull up the contributories, and there too you'll see a very similar trend. The financials leading the pack, HDFC, ICICI, Axis, within the 200 point, almost 200 point increase that we saw on the Nifty 50. Look at the contribution of HDFC and ICICI, just to kind of underline how large the gain was. 111 positive points out of 227 contributed by just these two players. Of course, you throw in an Axis and it's more than 50% of the gains on the Nifty 50 today. Look at the losers, far and few in terms of points contributed, but nonetheless you'll see quite a few names, and coming to around 44 points on the negative side of things. Now let's look at the broader markets, and before that let's pull up the advanced decline. So what we'll see, of course, 0.25% lower on the mid cap, that's a giveaway, but let's look at the advanced decline, and what you'll see is there was a sharp reversal midway through the day, and that continued. So there was a lot of weakness as well within the on a day when the Nifty 50 hit a record high. This certainly looks on the slightly weaker side of things, and therefore the Nifty mid cap was down around 0.25%, if we can pull up that graph, and the Nifty small cap also closed pretty much flat, slight positive bias at close, but outside of that pretty flat day of trade for the Nifty small cap. So that was largely the texture. Let's pull up the BSE 500 for specific names, and what we will see here is certain news heavy stocks have made an impact. Amara Raja, Craftsman, we saw Raymond as well. Raymond wasn't positive all through the day, but at the end of the day we saw the NCLT order come through for Raymond for the demerger, realty versus textile business, and that one was buzzing as well. Happiest Minds, well, promoter sale. Then you'll see a couple of names with regard to realty also in that pack, and you'll see, or rather more than a couple of names in realty. So that was largely the texture of the market.
All right, Harsh, thank you very much for joining us and bringing us that detailed analysis. Now, on to some big market voices. We spoke to Dinchoy Rani of Helios Capital Management about his market budget expectations and how it will impact the mid-cap and small-cap space. Listen in.
On the market itself, I don't see any major negative news or any positive news, in fact, also till the time of the budget. I think the budget will lay down a specific trend for the market, given what the policies will come out there. But the fact is that you may see the market being in a tight band up to the budget, and from there on, the move could be either ways. I mean, depending on this, because frankly, I mean, on the valuation front, the large caps are more or less. I'm obviously looking at history; they're expensive. But our belief is that the world has re-rated India, and that's why that 20-30% premium to what history had already, rather a 20% premium to what history was giving us on the large cap side. However, having said that, the mid caps looks totally stretched. I mean, our feel is that with a 60% premium to what the large caps are quoting at, they're fairly stretched. I mean, normally, if you see the last 10 years averages, it's around 20% premium to the large cap valuations that the mid caps are normally quote at. But this time around, they hit 60%. And because I think the pool is too small. The pool of 150 stocks having to absorb so much money, which goes into the mutual funds, that is creating a problem with that valuations. And on the small cap side, I think they're more or less at par with the large cap. So maybe, I mean, if you look at history, they were at 10% discount to large cap. So I think they're more or less there, but yeah, not at that shit. So having said that, maybe you'll see some kind of correction coming in the mid cap space. Otherwise, I don't see much happening in the other sides.
Well, the entry point is easy, but the exit is difficult for thematic funds, says Radhika Gupta, MD and CEO of Edelweiss AMC. Now, talking about the fund, she said that it has been a great year for PSUs. Here's a slice of that conversation.
I think investor risk appetite, as you're saying, has just gone out in general. And a lot of these thematic funds and thematic NFOs come out. And We did some interesting study. If you look at the long-term return of equity markets, it's about 15%. The long-term return of all these sectors is 15%.